Welcome to CTRL+ALT+DELETE with Lisa Duerre live. I'm Lisa Duerre, your guide through the ever-evolving landscape of leadership and tech. We're breaking down barriers and bringing our community together in real time. So whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your office chair or catching the replay later, please know that your voice matters. Speaking of voices, that's what firm leadership is all about. Listening, inviting wisdom, and embracing the collective intelligence of our teams. Because let's face it, no one leader has all the answers, and that's where you come in. As we dive into today's discussion, please be an active participant. Drop your thoughts, questions, and insights into the comments below. This isn't just my podcast, it's ours. Together, we're rebooting Leadership Drive. And before we kick things off, I'd like to mention that this podcast and live stream experience is brought to you by RLD Group. As your host and the CEO of RLD Group, I'm grateful for the opportunity to collaborate and bring in this podcast to life. Together, we're committed to empowering organizations, teams, and leaders like you, and your engagement in this conversation is invaluable. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation, get comfy, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's make some magic happen. Hey there, everyone, wherever you are, whatever platform you're on, I am so glad you're here. I am Lisa Duerre, the host of CTRL+ALT+DELETE with Lisa Duerre, and you're here with us live. Welcome, welcome. I want to start off with a statistic because I think it's going to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about today. And the statistic is this: 40% of non-managers and 41% of managers experience daily stress, according to Gallup. Daily stress, right? If you're feeling stress, you're not alone. I know I have stress. I know our guest has stress. This is our life in leadership. What I want to say to you, though, that this pressure is real. And today we're going to be talking about how to navigate stress through the lens of resilience. This season, we're live streaming. We're bringing in your comments, your opinions, your insights as well. So please drop your thoughts in chat. We will bring you into the conversation. And we're also focusing this season on this podcast on the RLD Group's firm leadership principles. That stands for flexible, intuitive, resilient, and mindful. And today we're going to be doing the R for resilience. And I cannot wait to have this conversation with you because there is a correlation for burnout prevention, stress management, and resilience. So we're going to double click on that today. And I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who inspires me, brings me clarity, helps me get grounded in times of stress, reminds me of my own resilience, and also to many people would look on paper to be a competitor of ours. But listen, I don't live in that land, and neither does she. We live in collaboration and space for everyone and co-creation. And so today I have the privilege to bring up a guest that, it's interesting when I think about this introduction. There's so many words, but what comes to mind is heart. Ilene has such heart. You listen, she's an expert in fostering resilience. She's the host of What's Possible podcast. She's also the CEO and leader of Silicon Valley Change Executive Coaching. She is amazing, and I'm so honored to call her friend. So Ilene Schaffer, why don't you come on up to the stage and we'll bring you right here. Here she comes. Ilene is here, everyone.
Lisa.
Hi, Ilene.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Just hearing that, my heart is pounding with so much love and admiration for you. You are one of the most beautiful humans. And thank you for bringing me into your world.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't want people to feel like this is a love fest, but there's a love fest, right? We're going to get to some real practical things. We're going to help leaders who are stressed and needing resilience. But there's something about, I feel like when I'm with Ilene, I feel more resilient. And so Ilene, thank you, because the way that you show up, the heart that you bring, the experience that you have, and the playfulness in which you and I banter really does fill my bucket and help me be more resilient. So I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about this today. Do you know? So thank you for being here.
It is the biggest pleasure. As you know, the founder and CEO, or I'm sorry, the founder of our company, Silicon Valley Change, Senya Myman, is the one who introduced us. And like you said, typically in organizations, people show up with this competition of, this is what we do. Oh, they do that. We can't talk. And that's not how either of us operate. And when Senya said, I have the most awesome person to introduce you to. She does really similar work in her own unique way to us, and you two need to meet. And from that first conversation forward, I just I fell in love with you and am so grateful to have you as a colleague and someone who fills my bucket. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. You're welcome. And I think one of the things, even just right off the bat, to think about resilience, to your point, when it was because Senya said the same thing to me, you got to know Eileen, she's amazing. And I wrote her after, like, oh my gosh, who is this amazing person I just met? But I think resilience, a component of resilience is trust. Right. And so
Mhm.
if there's trust in an organization or trust in that recommendation or trust in that referral, it makes the stress go down because listen, if Senya says you need to know Eileen and she's awesome, I'm already like, okay, I trust that. Right. And so I can show up in a different way than like, well, if I tell her my secret sauce or our firm model, what's she going to do with it? No, no, you're literally here talking about our model in through your lens. It is the coolest thing. And I hope that organizations can see what's possible with collaboration and the spirit of generosity and openness. So, yeah.
Yeah, and raising each other up. You know, Lisa, I had recently on my podcast Claude Silver, who a lot of people know, a thought leader in the HR space.
Yep.
Claude just posted on her LinkedIn a quote that I just love. She said, "For trust, if we extend it first to the other person, then they end up trusting us." And I think that's what happens is when we can lead with trusting the other person, it creates that fertile ground to create something really, really beautiful.
Wow. Look, and see how that all ties together? Well, first of all, the fact that you're having conversations with Claude is amazing. And the fact that trust just showed up, I think that's a wonderful place to start. And I'm going to be transparent with the audience, right? So we set up our podcast, we know the topics, we're going to like go deep on certain things. And the topic is resilience. But full transparency, Eileen a couple of days ago was like, you know what I really want to talk about? I want to talk about women in leadership, midlife women, burnout, and resilience and where that matters. And I instantly was like, game on, let's go. Because one of the things I think about resilience is to be able to trust, right? And go where the energy is. And I think sometimes in meetings, we stick to the agenda and but sometimes we have to be open to the messages that we're receiving, the topics that are of interest, where the energy goes. So do you want to just share, Eileen? We're going to go on the path of resilience with this double click, if you will. But why did that pop into your brain, or what are you seeing in your clients, or why does this matter? Why should we talk about midlife women, resilience, leadership, and all that goes with that?
Yeah, thank you. It's coming up for me for kind of from a bunch of different angles, to be honest. So, the angle that it's coming from immediately is I just finished, as you know, my master's in applied positive psychology over at Penn, and I wrote my
Mhm.
capstone on women in midlife. So, of course, my brain is filled with women in midlife, resilience, and how do we get more flourishing. So there's that going on. And then I am coaching clients, executive coaching clients through SVC, who I'm noticing similar patterns for them, whether it's stressors, different things they're going through physically, emotionally, caregiving. And so it was happening both professionally, it was happening academically, and of course, me and you, we are in that stage of life.
Yep.
And there's a lot that's on us. There's a lot on all leaders. So I don't want to say that every group of leaders doesn't have their own stressors. However, as we focus in on women today, what we really notice is there are co-stressors happening. So it might be taking care of aging parents, taking care of children. It's being at a high level in our careers at this stage of life. It might be starting to think about what's next after this career. We have all these different things bombarding us, as well as shifts in our physical being. And
Yep.
so, with all of that together, there was a big study in Seattle looking at women. And one of the biggest things that gets women is the co-stressors. So it's not any one thing, but it's that we have layers upon layers upon layers. And so being aware of that as an individual, being aware of that as a manager of women going through this, it helps us maybe show up with a little bit more self-compassion and compassion for others.
I'm just, this is, yeah. It's funny as a podcast host, sometimes I get so tongue tied with enthusiasm for the comment, the insight from my guests. I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to take a moment to calibrate my brain, and I'm going to bring a comment down from Nitsa. Nitsa put a comment. Nitsa, I'm so glad you're here. And Randy, if you can pull that up, let's see. Nitsa is saying, this is huge. Give trust. And then if it's lost, it takes a long time to rebuild. But we should treat people as we want to be treated. Yeah. And I think one of the things knowing Nitsa as I do, she's I want to give a shout out to Nitsa, always working to help women in tech thrive too. And I think sometimes one of the, I don't know, the sticking points I see with clients is it's the opposite. It's, well, if I'm vulnerable or I talk that I'm too stressed out or I share what's going on, then I'm going to be somehow sidelined or not given the cool project or be judged for being weak. And I mean, listen, I went through that personally. One of my biggest burnout stories of my life was after I became a mom at 43. I gave birth, went back to work, and I burnt out crazy. And I didn't tell anybody what was going on. I just kept thinking, act like I don't have a child and everything, I was like, now I'm laughing. My daughter's 12 and I'm like, yeah, that was really a good move there, Lisa, right? But I didn't trust that being honest about the sleep deprivation or the hormonal shifts going on or my lack of confidence in myself as a new parent, right? And so I think trust is going to be a pull through here, Eileen. And I want to say, to your point, how lucky are we that you could see through the different lenses because you're such a curious leader and coach that you could say, I'm seeing it personally, I'm seeing it in the work that I'm doing, and I'm seeing it in the curriculum that I'm going through. So I think what I want to do is make sure we give some practical, actionable things. And the first thing I know is presencing this is the part of it, right? So I would anyone listening right now, just put your hand on your heart, close your eyes a bit, and just think, who do I know that might be in this world that what Eileen is bringing forward? Someone with caregiving duties, someone in their midlife who's trying to figure out what's next, and these co-stressors that are going on. Because as we give some insights and tips, yes, that may help the person you're thinking about, but it's going to help you be a better leader too, right?
Yeah.
So do you have a practical insight you want to share right away, Eileen? Let's drop a golden nugget here.
One thing, and this is going to sound both simple and complex in a way, and I want it to sound more simple. So bear with me. I think the more we can show up authentically, and I know that sounds so wacky, but Lisa, that's how you and I connected right out of the gate, and that's how you build trust. When you don't put on airs, when you don't try to present, and we live in a world where obviously people are presenting all the time, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, whatever your mode of social media might be, there is a presentation of this is what it looks like. And I think the more we can start to talk about these very real feelings and stressors, the more we can just show up as humans first. And I think when we show up as humans first, that's when trust happens. And being honest with things. And I think if we can ask for help, but also, as you said, look out for people who might need help. How can we reach out to one another? Those things don't take a lot of time. We often think about, burnout or well-being, and it's, okay, I've got to do this huge exercise program. I need to go on this huge diet. Like we make things very complex.
Yeah.
Life doesn't need to be that complex. And one thing that we know when we look at positive psychology in its entirety, the number one most important thing is connection.
Yeah.
It's people.
Yep.
And so when we can connect at the most core level and show who we truly are and what we might be going through, that opens the door to trust. That allows someone else to show up that way. And leaders really have a wonderful platform to do that, to create that environment for the people who they manage.
Yeah. When I'm listening to you talk, I'm going to summarize a couple of things I heard. The authenticity piece, it is simple and super complex. You and I, when I was on your podcast, we were talking about what you don't see behind the Zoom screen, right? Like what else is going on for the person. So authenticity, I think the leaders have to model that first, and they need to say, yeah, I'm feeling kind of tired today, or, oh, I'm feeling really cranky or stressed, or like presencing and languaging in a way that makes you human as a leader so that the people who report to you feel like they can do that too, right? There's that component. And the other thing I heard you say that really just, it doesn't have to be a big thing, right? And so even this morning, I got it. I look what I got. I got a thank you card this morning. I just told my husband, Randy, oh my gosh, I got the cutest little gift. Thank you. Right. And I won't
Oh,
go into all of it, but it's funny. You know, okay, I will read it. Hope you enjoy the shell and the pickle. They sent me a pickle. It's hilarious. It's a stress pickle. Okay. Hope you enjoy the shell and the pickle. You're a blessing to me and so many others. You're loved, valued, and treasured. That was what this card
oh,
said. Okay.
oh my gosh.
I, what?
That's so,
Right? And but you
wow.
even a text, even sometimes like the similar little memes of just like, it's a crazy day, right? I just want to say that I think we've lost the art of a thank you card, but my day today was made brighter with a pickle.
Yeah.
Like what? It's like a stress pickle. Look at that, right? I'm cracking
I,
up because there's playfulness too, right? So I think one
yeah.
of the things to build resilience, I mean, I instantly exhaled. When I read that, I was like, oh, wow. It changed my nervous
Oh,
system. And so I
yes.
think sometimes, and by the way, I didn't do that. It was done. I'm like, thank you, Tamara. But the thing that really stood out for me was her making the time to see me. Do you know?
That's exactly what I was, yes, that's what
Mhm,
I was gonna say. It was someone who sees you, who values you, tells
mhm,
you you're of value, all the components of mattering that Isaac Prelotensky talks about, if
mhm.
anybody has read his book, How People Matter, and it was gratitude. So it was gratitude and connection rolled into one, along with zest. I mean, when you think about
Yeah.
all these things that came in one little package,
Right?
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. And one of the things that really stood out for me as you were talking, I was like, how can we help people feel more seen? Because that is a resilience building tool. Right. So I
Yeah.
have a client right now who was telling me about some things going on in their life and how they chose to be transparent with their manager about what was happening. And the client said to me, I wasn't sure where it would go, but I kind of thought it would be okay, but it was more than okay. So it was like, hey, I'm going to be out of pocket because I have these meetings I have to go to that are not work related. And here's why. And the boss was like, I got your back. Just text me whatever you need. And it was another example to me of, wow, if you are courageous enough to be honest about what's going on, um, and your leader actually shows up and says, do you, I got
Yeah.
you. How might we work together? Let's figure out this flexibility. This is mind-blowing to me from a resilience standpoint. So do you have any examples like that, Eileen, of
Yeah.
where, leaders have either not exhibited or exhibited in a ways that might inspire our audience today to just think about, maybe I could do 10% more to create some more resilience on this team?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you 2. I'm gonna give
Yay.
you
I love to.
one that takes us in the direction we don't wanna go, and one that takes us in the direction we do want
Ooh.
to go.
Okay.
So, the first one, someone who I coach, they again, typical, woman in midlife and has aging parents on her plate. She has kids that she's taking care of. She also has personal health situation that she's dealing with. And the manager of her group, and this is a senior leader who I work with, so even a more senior person, obviously managing, continuously calls for meetings after hours, has offsites that require travel that impact the health of this particular person. And so I think being able to really be aware of who's on your team and what else do they have going on in their lives. And it goes back to what you and I talked about, what's behind the screen. And
Mhm.
I think someone can, and the person who I coach loves the work she does. She would put in many hours. It's not a lack of wanting to be present. It's just on the weekend she can't travel. That's tough
Mhm.
for her. Or, she can in advance, but a lot of these meetings are called last minute. Now we want you to be here, or you know what, we're going to do a last minute nighttime meeting. Those things, being really conscious of having that be not the norm, but the exception when that happens. So that's one thing that I would say. Now, on a positive, I have another client who we work with this organization, very large organization. I cannot say their name because of the NDA, but chances are you all know this organization. They do sabbaticals, and it is a 1 month sabbatical once you hit a certain time of having worked there. What I love about this, I was just talking to their head of HR. He said the sabbaticals are always encouraged, and You are not to connect with people while people at, who are still working, not to connect with you. And when you come home, your job has been managed while you were gone. So you don't come home to, or come back to work
Mhm.
to a full inbox, to a crazy meeting schedule. It is so supported because they know people need this. And so if we are going to offer ways to facilitate greater well-being for our employees, think about the full picture. So if you have sabbaticals, does the person come back to a workload that's unmanageable and then just skyrockets their stress level day one? Or are you managing it for them so they can exhale when they come back? So those are
That's
two different
lovely.
types of
Yeah.
examples.
Well, you've just inspired a thought that so first of all, anyone that offers a sabbatical and covers the work gets like ridiculous gratitude from me. I've had a
Yeah.
sabbatical. Once was a medical leave, I'll call it a sabbatical, and the other was like taking the time off and coming back to everything on you is it dilutes everything. It negates everything. It's awful. So to know that that examples there can inspire our leaders. And I think the thing that I've noticed too is this, hybrid work and how many days in the office and wellness Fridays or wellness Wednesdays. And the same message goes, which is to build a resilient team, you got to give the people the time and not have the expectation that they need to check their emails or be on call. Like if you're giving them the day off, or this is like a company sponsored initiative, you got to like manage it that way. So it's a
Yeah.
wonderful reminder. Nitsa has a comment in here. I want to bring it up. And Nitsa, I'm so glad you're here participating. So let's see. It's about transparency. True transparency brings us together. It leads to loyalty, followership, and true open communication. Yeah. So Eileen, what are your thoughts on
Yep.
transparency? Let's go there. Let's let Nitsa guide us in for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that transparency goes back to Nitsa, which I think you were probably commenting right after we were talking about this, is showing up authentically. So
Mhm.
showing up and not trying to present in a way that you're covering up what else is going on in your life. And there is that fine line. We don't need to overshare. You don't need to share what doesn't feel right for you to share. So this is, you know, knowing how to share, how to appropriately share, and then also being able to be vulnerable sometimes. And I think it's hard to be vulnerable because we feel like we could risk being judged, risk having people be concerned about our ability to perform at a certain level. So there is it's not always easy. So I want to
Mhm.
acknowledge that,
Mhm.
but showing up with transparency, showing up authentically and showing up human, it really does make all the difference, and it builds a culture that you want in the organization, a culture where people truly can connect.
I I love this conversation. I wish we had 4 hours. This is because there's so many layers to this, right? And one of the things that I know for sure is that I had told myself I was resilient. I power through anything. I can work 25 hours a day. I'll sleep when I'm dead. That was me a long time ago. And one of the things I realized is that I was defining resilience in the wrong way. Right? That's not
Yeah.
resilient. That's like workaholism. You know what I mean? Like that's like
Yeah.
perfectionism.
Yes.
That's imposter syndrome. Like
Yes.
that's not resilience. Resilience in my mind, my experience is you take a moment to reflect. You look at the past and my first thing is like, okay, when have I been resilient before? And that's when I realized my definition of resilience was wrong for me, right? And then it was like, okay, what does resilience look like? Well, to me, it's giving a moment of pause for my brain to catch up with my mouth sometimes. That can be resilient, right?
Mm.
Resilience can
Yes,
be
absolutely.
changing priorities and looking at what really makes sense for the team right now. But one of my secret things that I want to just not make secret when I think about resilience is that the wisdom is inside your organization. It's inside your team, it's inside yourself, it's inside your system. And I think one of the things I want to just drop here for people to think about is how might you bring in the voices of your team for problem
Mm,
solving? How
I
might
love
you
that.
allow and create space, facilitate a dialogue that lets people bring their best selves forward and help you define policy? Because in my mind, resilience from an organizational standpoint, it can't be defined by one person.
Yeah.
It's a compilation of your processes, your people, and your belief systems. And so I just want to drop that in there as we're talking, Eileen. And I see 2 comments here if I can. And you're welcome to comment.
One
I'll bring up Rebecca's too.
one quick one quick thing on what you just
Yeah.
said that I think is really important, and that is, and it goes back to coaching, which is what both of us do.
Yeah.
It's asking questions, not telling people. And so
Yes. Yeah.
asking questions and getting a sense of well-being to somebody, or creating a culture of well-being, is going to be different for everybody too. So I think the more voices we can get in, and also, if possible, personalizing that based on what people need. And it allows for, we know what self-determination, that autonomy piece, competence, relatedness, that allows for that to happen when we bring in the voices and we ask, what is going to make this a healthy environment where that 40% to 41% of stress levels, we can start to drop them. And I think this question that you were just about to ask with Becca will bring that in too. So I'll let you
No, it's perfect. So Rebecca's got a
go there.
question. How do you help with resilience outside the workplace? You could have a great workplace and still have the rest of life putting the pressure on. OMG. I'm raising my hand. I know. Yeah. So, okay, this is like so deep, and I'm going to try and be succinct. I think it goes back to the same thing Eileen and I are talking about. For me, it's about reflection and curiosity. Sometimes my resilience is when my boundaries are blurred and I feel like I have to do everything for everybody. I'm a mom. We have an aging parent in our household too. I'm living with a chronic disease with no cure, little things, right? And so it's like, okay, do I really want to take a vacation in July somewhere else, or do we want to do a staycation here? That was one of the ways I built my resilience this summer. We didn't go anywhere. We did day trips. So it's really, I think for me, it's about boundaries and clarity, and not asking for permission, but asking for support inside your family. But Eileen, what do you want to add to that? Because I know you've got thoughts.
You just nailed it. The boundaries and asking for help, I think, is critical. And again, it goes back to our conversation with Nitsa, is being transparent too.
Mhm.
Because I think when we go back to women and how we are conditioned, it is to take care of everything and to not ask for help, to not show that we are on fumes, or we're,
Yeah. We might look
we
weak.
are
Eileen, we
dragging.
don't want to look
Yeah,
weak.
no,
Right?
definitely not. And so I think that that transparency, the setting boundaries, and ask for help, ask for help, ask for help, I think is really critical. And taking breathers. And then the very last thing I would say, and we won't get into it because we don't have a lot of time left, but also knowing what your strengths are. We are big on doing the via character strengths. Our strengths can really help us in navigating the well-being waters, and help us be
Yeah.
more resilient when we're aware of our strengths and we apply those, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, or in any domain.
Oh, it's a great reminder. Yeah, we're a Clifton Strengths side, right? So strengths it's the foundation for generative life-giving experiences, right? It's like, how might we play to our strengths and leverage our strengths? And
Yeah.
you made me think about something, and it dropped. So I'm going to bring up Stephen real quick, and then I'm going to see if my thoughts catch up. So Stephen says, let's see, I'm struck by the difference in sabbatical in Europe and the US. I hear people in the US call 3 to 4 weeks a sabbatical. In Europe, it's a vacation. Yeah. Sabbatical in Europe means you're taking several months or maybe a year off. And this speaks to the difference in perception of time off to build and maintain resilience. Stephen, I'm with you. When I first realized, in working and globally, that there were times in months where the offices were closed, I had serious envy and jealousy being in the US. And I really, still to this day, am a little bit perplexed as to how it's so different, and yet they still seem to get the work done. So I don't know, Eileen, what are your thoughts on European sabbatical versus us calling a 2 to 3 week time off? Like I said, I call my medical leave a sabbatical, right? So yeah.
Exactly. No, it is an interesting question. I think, yeah, I think it depends, being, it's paid for. So for this particular company who I am talking about, the one little slight difference would be the vacation would be, you're using vacation time, versus the sabbatical is kind of that gift. And I don't know enough about in Europe. And Stephen, I know you currently work in the US, have worked in Europe. So I might be missing that, but I do believe for this particular company, a sabbatical is fully paid, separate from your vacation, and then also taking vacation. So a sabbatical is a vacation, but it's a gift of paid vacation from the
Mm,
employer. Wouldn't it be nice to have more of those? Absolutely. Yes.
Indeed. I mean, we may need to do a whole, we may need to come back and talk sabbaticals, Eileen, and like do some more research and bring forward some ideas because this is something I question for myself too. Now, as an entrepreneur with my
Yeah,
own business, I did take a month off, right? I did a little bit of
I
work
love
behind,
that.
but I have that capacity now as a business owner to do that. And I told people I was rebooting, right? This is my reboot time. So I guess I just took a sabbatical, right? It was a month,
Yeah.
maybe longer, but I think fundamentally the root of what Stephen is getting to through the lens I'm seeing it at is what are the expectations and how might we really embrace the belief that 2 to 3 weeks is not a lot. 2 to 3
Yeah.
weeks is not a lot sometimes, right?
Exactly.
2 to 3 weeks. You have
Well,
to take 2 weeks to just come off all the stress to have a week to then ramp back up. Do you know?
exactly. Well, I also do want to call out, not everyone has that ability to take 2 to 3 weeks or a month,
Yep.
period. And again, in the ideal world, that would be great. But I also think one of the things when we're talking about resilience, when we're talking about burnout, we cannot wait for a vacation or a sabbatical to
Mhm.
unwind and fill our buckets. We have a pitcher that we're constantly pouring out throughout the day, throughout the week. Going back to Becca, it's getting poured out at home, it's getting poured out at work. And I always have my little sprinkles. We need to sprinkle resilience through our resilience and well-being
Mhm.
throughout our day. We cannot. I'll have clients come and say, I can't sleep at night. Should I do a meditation at nighttime? Should I take a calm gummy, whatever it
Yep.
is at
Yep.
nighttime? Like, before we do that, let's go back to the very beginning of your morning. What does your day look like? And if
Mhm.
you're going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, sometimes you forget to eat a meal, you don't exercise, you don't move your body, you haven't talked to a friend. That's what we need to rework. And you're going to start sleeping better once we get you to sprinkle resilience interventions or
Mhm.
little things that you can do to take care of yourself throughout the day and not wait for that vacation.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. I would like to ask you, so I believe in the power of music. You want to talk about taking a moment, a song. If I listen to a song sometimes, it might be a 3-minute moment, but that can shift my nervous system, get me back into regulation. I might need to co-regulate with my husband or daughter, get a hug, right? Do something, meet with a friend over the phone. But that song is usually the start for me when I want to get back into accessing and resourcing myself. So is there a song on this topic, Eileen, that comes to mind that might inspire our listeners?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to just tell you, your gut is grounded in science. I took a whole class on the positive humanities, and music
Mhm.
does boost our well-being. And you don't have to be the musician. We can be the listeners. I am not musically talented. I am musically challenged, not talented.
Yeah.
So I would say, in the spirit of woman, I really love two songs by Alicia Keys, and I'll be on the Peloton. And when these songs come on, I'm like, yes. So Girl on Fire, I
Yeah.
love by Alicia Keys, as well as Superwoman. And that speaks a lot to what women are going through. Now, I do love a good dance party, that don't get me wrong. So this one's not women oriented, but I'm going to throw one more in there. I love Perm by Bruno Mars. That song, it's hard not
Perm.
to start dancing.
I don't think I know. Can you tell me how does it go? Perm. I know the other 2.
Oh,
This girl's
I
on right, and I know
well,
I am right. I know those 2, but what's perm?
yep, exactly. Oh, well, now I can't. I challenge
Okay. If
women.
anyone knows perm,
I'm
drop it in
musically
there.
challenged.
I gotta go check it out because it sticks in my head. And I mean, honestly, sometimes if I can't even get the song, but I think about it, it shifts for me. So I'm gonna go check that out.
It's so fun. So, okay, when you check it out, go to YouTube so you watch his video with it. The
Okay.
dance is so fabulous. Yeah.
Oh, yay. Okay, I'm down. I am in. All right. So I want to thank a couple of folks who've been chatting with us, Rebecca, Stephen, Nitsa. Eileen, I'd love you to just share a little bit about SVC. How can people find you? Maybe your podcast, because you're amazing and people need to know.
Ah, thank you, Lisa. So the podcast is What's Possible, and I bring on experts like Lisa onto the show. People that are our main audience are senior leaders as well as HR professionals. And so we bring wonderful people in to talk about what's possible in the space of leadership and well being. Our company is Silicon Valley Change Executive Coaching, and we blend positive psychology, which is the science of well being, with leadership development. And so we focus in on senior leaders through C suite We started with tech organizations. That's still a niche. And we also have many organizations outside of the tech space. And we also have facilitators who lead offsites as well as keynote speakers, and a very deep bench of coaches, over 50 coaches on our team.
It's just, I first of all, I just love how much our businesses literally do such similar things, right? And we're modeling for people. And I'm like, oh, wait, we do that. Look at that. What? I really feel like even our podcast, sharing our time with each other, I feel that is such a component of resilience when the trust is there and we bring these things forward. And I've listened to so many episodes. Your podcast is so compelling, Ilene. You do such a great job pulling the information out. I've never been a client receiving coaching from your org, but I know based on the guests, people would be foolish not to spend time with you, listening to that and then connecting with you as well. So I hope our audience does. I am inspired by you every day. Thank you for bringing this topic forward. If you could leave our audience with one thought, a reflection, or maybe a generative question they can be asking themselves through this lens of stress, resilience, and our midlife women leaders, what would you like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I would say really think about who in your world lifts you up and spend more time with those people. Because when we connect with the people who bring us joy, like Lisa, that is the answer to well-being. When we have a community who supports us, who we support, who we raise up, connection really matters.
Connection really matters, everyone. You heard it here from Ilene Schaffer first, and I'm going to double click on that with you. Yes, find people who lift you up. Ilene, you lift me up every day. Every time I talk to you, every conversation we have, I'm so grateful. Listen, for those of you here and those of you listening to the recording, if this inspired you, please like, share, comment, bring it to a team meeting, bring it to your family dinner table, talk with your bestie about it, because building your resilience, one of the ways through that is in connection and reflection. So I hope we've inspired you today. Ilene, thank you for being a guest here live. Thank you, Nitsa and Stephen and Rebecca for commenting in here. Wishing you all a great day, and find someone who lifts you up and let them know they do that. That would be a great first step. Thanks, Ilene. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a gift to be with you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
That's a wrap, folks. Whether you're here with us live for the reboot or caught the replay to upgrade your leadership drive, I want to say a big thank you for being a part of this experience. Your input and energy are what keep us going strong. But hold on tight. This isn't where the journey ends. Let's keep the momentum going by sharing your thoughts in the comments, spreading the word on social media, or dropping me a message. I'm all ears and ready to connect. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button or ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode. If today sparked something for you, your likes and comments mean the world. They help us reach more leaders like yourself and prevent burnout. Together, we're not just leaders, we're firm leaders, upgrading our drive and rebooting our leadership game one episode at a time. Oh, and one more thing. If you're interested in bringing this valuable discussion to your teams or organization, RLD Group is here to lend a hand. Reach out via LinkedIn or email hello@rldgroupllc.com. We'd love to chat. Until next time, this is Lisa Duerre signing off with a virtual high five and or a virtual fist bump, whatever you choose. Make it a great day, everyone.